So today, thank you very much everyone for joining Spotlight. Today we're actually joined by Christal Bemont, CEO of Talend. Firstly, Christal, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, full disclosure, Christal and I have actually known each other for quite a few years now, and I sort of said to Christal earlier, every time I get to talk to you, I learn about not just business, but also leadership of business. And one thing that I've thoroughly enjoyed working with Christal over the years on how she actually takes everybody along for the journey as a leader of her business. And I've really been inspired by that, and I've learned a lot, and I've actually put a lot of Christal's practices in play over the years as well. So we're going to talk all things strategy, all things people, all things leadership, and we're going to touch on the relevant stuff around COVID as well, and how Christal's leading through the change of that. So Christal, before we get started, I'd love for you to share with us a quick introduction.
Sure. Well, it's just probably obvious that I work for Talend. I joined Talend as the CEO at the beginning of this year. Really interesting time to start my journey as a CEO, Marty, and with COVID right around the corner at the time. But look, this is a company that the purpose is something we're really proud of, is really thinking about not just the traditional way that Talend has shown up in the market of helping with data integration and data management, but data is the heart of, and information is the heart of every business. And so really putting meaning behind and substance behind trusting data and what it means to have quality interactions in data. So I've been thrilled and just blessed to be here and work with an amazing group of people working on some pretty cool things, actually.
Yeah, no, I've actually been following your LinkedIn posts because I love the thought leadership, and you cover a breadth of topics as well. In that, so I thoroughly recommend you follow Christal and her stuff, what she's doing on LinkedIn, because I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Hey, Christal, where I'd love to start is, you and I were talking, I sort of referenced it earlier. I learned something from you quite a while ago, and I asked you a question quite a while ago about what's the magic? How do you get your people on board in relation to the journey and the clarity of purpose and things like that? And you taught me something really, really clear that I was able to understand, and then I put in practice in my leadership structure while we're at Concur. But I'd love for you to actually talk more about how do you lead people through this change, and what are some of the challenges that you're seeing through the leadership of our people through the COVID period?
Yeah, I would say very first thing is, these are things that are hard for people, and you have to just go into it with an awareness and understanding that change is sometimes things that people embrace, sometimes unexpected, sometimes really great opportunities, sometimes like COVID, you're just responding quickly. And so regardless if it's something that's a strategy with your business or something you have to adapt to, work from home, for example, I guess I've just been taught a long time ago that really know your audience and how people are going to consume information and how they're going to interpret it. And so I think it's this deep belief that you have to have a connection, kind of like bookends of, nothing that you go and decide to do, no matter how great the thoughts are, the strategy is going to land if you can't understand how it's going to be received and interpreted by people across your organization and how they're going to feel about it. And there's things that are more EQ related in my mind about really understanding people and where they're at and how they might interpret it. It's that connection, and it's less about being an academic thing and more about a contextual piece of how people feel about something actually.
Yeah, we talk a lot about a stratapp. How do we get people engaged on the journey up front? Not just at the back end, up front, engaged on the journey. What input do they have to really influence the journey, which is a really key part.
I think the hardest thing that I've found is that people don't understand what it means to them. How do I personally, what does this mean to me? How do I connect? I think there's this word of connectedness and connective tissue of these things have to kind of flow into a pattern where you really think about, so what, who cares? Why does that matter? And because the company can have really big aspirational, even maybe things that you feel really strongly about, mission, vision, purpose, but if you can't get people to literally be emotionally connected to it, it's something that doesn't have a life. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. I love it. Now, you talked earlier about people feeling alone.
Mm.
And this is interesting because you're one of the first leaders that I've spoken to globally through this period. And, that actually has touched on not necessarily the disconnect of the plan with day-to-day execution, but really is focused on their people. And
Yeah.
you've got to acknowledge of how alone some people are feeling to understand how can we help. I'd love for you to share that a little bit more.
It's interesting because I think just in the place that you and I both kind of grew up, if you will, in the way that we, not in a way that maybe was obvious to us at the time, but from some of the leaders that we've worked under, they just have a natural way of connecting with people, and their energy transfers to people. It's like a multiplier effect. And this idea that this moment in time, COVID in particular, it's harder to transfer that and to have that same kind of connection when you're trying to do that over Zoom. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of distractions and a lot of things that people are dealing with in their personal life that are a ton of uncertainty that we've never all had to once as a global society deal with. And something that was really important at the beginning of this journey that I believed, but I had to put into action was, how am I going to take care of people? And so, and it really came down to a couple things. One was I can physically take care of them by trying to put them out of harm's way. And then the second one is, how else do I take care of them mentally and emotionally? And there is a big, everything in my life, personally and professionally, comes down to an emotional connection and how people might feel about something. And so there's a really, taking care of people became a two-pronged, approach in well-being. And I think it's a big missing component in a lot of our conversations. And people feeling disconnected in people, being with people, but disconnected in how they fit into something. Like, you feel an energy when you're with people. And I think people are feeling not just isolated, but they're feeling alone. And how do you change your communication, your strategy, the way that you pull people along through that thing you just talked about? And it became something that I became really highly sensitive to, that you need a way to bring people in.
Yes, yeah. And I was having this conversation with another executive around when COVID first hit, we were all sent home. And I remember the day very, very clearly in North America, especially when everyone was sent home on March 6th. But the idea of, it was the Zoom and that, all those definitely face-to-face helped because they were in play well before COVID as well. But when people who were action orientated and fed from other people, when they got off the Zoom, they weren't actually they lost complete focus because they didn't know what the next step was and the contextual how to get it done. And sort of that's a big journey in relation to how we're helping organizations. But I guess it's less about stratapp and sort of the context. It's more about how do we plan as leaders to make sure that everyone has that clear purpose and they know exactly what they're doing today has direct relation to what they want and what they need, what their team needs, what their division needs, and then ultimately what their company. If we can see that clear line of sight, our purpose just becomes a lot more energized, right, in relation to how we get there.
It's the thing that one of the things that I'm most impressed by what you've brought together here at stratapp is this isn't a moment in time type of thing. It's a journey of an ongoing, iterative, constant. You can't just land something and walk away. To your point, even if it's a message and you can get some things across, it's a continuation of a flow, if you will. And I think that's one of the things that's harder to do in this world that we have right now. But you know what? I think this situation is the reality of what we have, not because everyone's going to be working from home, maybe forever, but more of this is a wake-up call, in my opinion. It's a moment where we go, there's some things we're behind on. Consideration of just, these are good practices anyway, even if we weren't working all from home. These are just things that sometimes happen when you're really, really lucky, like we were naturally. But that is rare. It just doesn't happen naturally in most places. So to be very thoughtful about it. Yeah, it's something I love in the way that you guys have brought this together, that connective tissue.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with my mother the other day. And I share it because you sort of talked about the evolution and we talked about the leadership life cycle, right? So how do we move from ideation to planning to strategy to balancing strategic and OKR to the underlying factor of collaboration, which pins it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother goes, oh, my friends are saying just bring on 2021. And I said, Mum, 2021 doesn't really change. Don't wish your days away. The fact is, we've got to own the responsibility of what's happening today, so we can then start the journey of moving it forward and take all of those learnings and then continue to evolve practices, efficiency,
Totally.
whatever those things are you're focused on. But don't be dismissive that nothing's going to change next year. It's about how do we take action now to take
Yeah. Well, and how is it like, even Marty, like I was just having this conversation earlier today, like this is in all the ways that COVID has been bad and been harmful to people. And I would never put anything on it that was, trying to take away something positive from it. But as a byproduct of it, I think it's a forcing function of things that are not just a wake-up call, but a necessity. Like we're far behind in some of these things. And this is now not just an opportunity, but a requirement for us to be doing these things and the things that like stratapp enables. So
I love it.
Well,
so really, this is an awesome conversation. I want to pivot for a minute because I know you're a strong people leader. You're incredibly successful, and I love the energy that you've got going at Talent. It's amazing. You touched on something at the beginning of this because I've known you for many years. You said it was interesting coming in to this organization at a time of mass change, mass market change that were completely out of our control. How have you dealt with it as a leader?
Well, it's, here's the thing, and this is the only thing I know what to do is just to be authentic and to be transparent and be as real. I've struggled at times. It personally and professionally, and that there's moments where there's uncertainty. That, for me, kind of just, maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea or everyone subscribes to this, but the best way I can be, because it's what I want from people, is to show up the way I want from my team is, we're all in this together. I don't pretend for a second this isn't hard. And I just, for a long time ago, decided that I will, all the barriers come down. It's just, I am who I am. And I want people who they are in their organic self, like authenticity, transparency, being able to be vulnerable. Like, I think we've got to be understanding of people are struggling. And I think people need to know that they're not alone, to use that word again. And so coming in for me, there have been moments, I'll tell you, it's not just COVID, it's things like social unrest, like George Floyd and the things that have happened. There's been the leaders that we've worked for before, I've had to sit and have conversations just going, how are you handling this? Because this is, I feel a deep responsibility to take care of people, but I don't also want my opinions and my personal views to kind of, be forced on anyone, but this is not okay, and so there's been a lot to traverse this year. And the best way I know how to do that is to just show my true self and to say, I need a bunch of all of you being real, because that's how we get through this. And that's actually how we build a strong foundation of an amazing culture and amazing people who feel like they can be themselves.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel like people, because maybe you've been let into the home now, you kind of see them in a different way than people put the, I'm going to show up for work kind of face on. And now things have gotten a little bit realer than, maybe that's the word, a little bit more real than they've been in the past. But I love it. I think the more we can just break down those and just be like, hey, we're just all here to get some stuff done. We all have a role to play. Let's make sure we know what, we're on the same page, and there's gonna be good days and bad days. And guess what? We're all in it together.
Yeah. I love it. I'm on board. I'm on board.
I mean, we've learned from the best, so.
We were very blessed. We absolutely
were, yes.
So, Christal, thank you very much. I just,
thanks, Marty.
Love spending time with you always, and I wish you all the best. And I don't think there's a better CEO out there that could lead an organization through the opportunity that you have, which you have incredible opportunity, but also the change that we're going through that has the ability to touch every single employee that you have and take everyone through that journey to actually allow everyone to understand there is a better horizon that we have with the opportunity. So thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm just going to say everything you guys are doing. I have to tell you, this is a big gap that exists out there. So kudos to you guys, because it's a massive, massive impact. that I think is missing today. So keep on keeping on, as they say, and best of luck to you. It's good to catch up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Christal. Take care.
See you later.